Cheese. All right, and welcome back to That's Some Cheese, part of the Vendetta Sports Podcast Network. Today is Thursday, January 2nd, 2020. Happy New Year. Starting off the podcast, we have Alex Chick on the line. You can follow him, Alex Chick, and his Twitter page, Ballbuster. Of course, we are brought to you by VendettaSportsMedia.com. Alex, what's going on today? Happy New Year. You got any resolutions or anything?
Resolution, no. Just get better at covering sports. That's all I'm trying to do.
All right. So basically, what I had in mind is we're gonna do some Oakland Raiders stuff. You're a big Raiders fan. We have enough playoff stuff going on with the site. I'm tired of talking about it, so I want to dive into your team. I guess what I wanted to start with is there's a whole Reddit page out there. These people are chirping me, calling me out because they gave the Raiders an F for their 2019 draft grade. I want to see. Let's start with this. So the Raiders, they trade Khalil Mack for Josh Jacobs. Okay, I guess so. They trade John Abram for Amari Cooper. That one's kind of an L, but we'll see on Abram. They totally whiff on the fourth pick in the draft, Cleveland Farrell. Just total disappointment. Now, they do some nice things in the middle rounds, but we're going to call this a win for the Raiders. Really? Come on, Alex. We're going to call this a win?
Well, I mean, okay. So, on the Khalil Mack trade, I'm torn because what it came down to is contracts. They gave Derek Carr this big old fancy contract, and, some Raiders fans are not happy about it. I love Derek Carr. That's different. And it came down to contracts. I mean, probably, I think 33%, if they signed Khalil Mack, 33% of the Raiders' contracts and salaries would have went to those two guys. At least 67% rest to just sign the whole roster. I mean, it wasn't good business. I mean, I hated trading Khalil Mack. He is a generational player. I love Khalil Mack, even on the Chicago Bears. But, I mean, Abrams looked really good in that first game. He got injured, of course, and we didn't get to see any more. And it's not a big sample size for that. Even though they didn't trade for him. That was Amari Cooper, my bad. But Josh Jacobs was, in my opinion, and I'm biased, he's Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he was stellar for the Raiders. I mean, he came on the scene, bursting on the scene. And we have this second first-round pick, and then we got to figure out what we're going to do with that. I think it has an argument to be a win for the Raiders just because if you factor in the salary situation, how, if we kept him, who are we going to sign for the rest of the team? And then you got to think Josh Jacobs, he's a rookie. We hit on him. I mean, it has an argument, in my opinion.
All right, so let's break this down a little bit more because I find this laughable. Number one, they gave away 2 really good picks for Antonio Brown. That's a disaster. And what the Raiders need more than anything, probably some more weapons for Derek Carr. With that third round pick, Pittsburgh took Deontay Johnson, who had a really, really good rookie year. He looks like he's going to be a solid number 2 receiver. Oakland basically gave that away. So already there's a whole black eye over this draft class because you're just giving away draft picks for a trade that made no sense whether Antonio Brown played or didn't play.
I feel like it made sense at the time. In retrospect, of course, you're looking at it and you're like, damn, they really gave. I mean, but Antonio Brown, drama or not, he is one of the best wide receivers in the game. There's no doubt about that. We gave up the 3rd and 5th, and at that time, I was like, holy shit, only a 3rd and 5th? Now you look at it, and you're like, well, wow, they gave up too much for a 3rd and 5th because he didn't even play. But if he would have played, and I hate doing the if, but, hypotheticals, if he would have played, we gave up a 3rd and 5th, gives Derek Carr a, deep threat option. Tyrell Williams is not forced to be the number 1 wide receiver. He's number 2. Hunter Renfrow is a solid number 3 wide receiver, if not number 2 at the end of the year. I mean, thinking in retrospect, yes, it's a bad trade. It was bad, especially given all that happened. He's not even on a team anymore. I mean, and if you look at it in retrospect, Steelers did fleece us because he didn't even end up playing. But that's just my opinion on it.
Here's why I hated the Brown trade, even if he would have played. Because they already had that guy with Amari Cooper. Okay, they give him up to acquire a player who's 6 years older. It's not like the Raiders were winning the Super Bowl. When you trade for a 30-year-old Antonio Brown, you better win now. This was a 7-win Raiders team. That team wasn't winning playoff games with Antonio Brown or without Antonio Brown. He was just going to toil away in Oakland. They cause problems, be a knucklehead, even if he did play. You gave up Cooper. This was the time to rebuild, not to bring in old guys who weren't going to help you win anyway.
But if you look at Cooper, okay, and, you know, of course, me being a Raiders fan, I watched a lot of Cooper. His footwork is amazing. His footwork was to die for. But he was so inconsistent. I mean, how many times with the Cowboys, you know, where he's a number 1 and he has a solid number 2 in Michael Gallup behind him, how many times has he dropped the ball? He just disappeared from the Cowboys offense. I mean, he's very inconsistent. When he and Michael Crabtree were there, them two led the team in drops, which made the Raiders lead the league in drops. I mean, his footwork is amazing. He just was inconsistent at times. Maybe he didn't want to be in Oakland. I don't blame him. I'm a Raiders fan. I'm not dumb, though. I know people don't usually want to be in Oakland, okay? But, I mean, he was incredibly inconsistent. He disappeared from games. He did that with the Cowboys. To get a first for Amari Cooper and his inconsistencies, I loved it. I loved the trade. I was like, that's a first for me, you know?
Now, I did like the Cooper trade from Oakland's perspective, but I hated what they did with it. And it's not because I don't like Jonathan Abram. I thought he was a good prospect coming out. But they had Carl Joseph on the roster. And what that Abram pick to me said is, we don't like Carl Joseph anymore. Abram's just a slightly better version. The problem I have with that is Carl Joseph was a first-round pick. You're throwing away assets for no reason.
Well, and I think the Carl Joseph thing, he was in a contract year. And it was kind of like motivation, I guess, to play well. But I understand, like, why would you draft one if you're not going to, you know, keep the other one? And now it looks like Carl Joseph, he had a decent year. He got injured halfway through, but before that, he was playing decently well considering the Raiders' defense. And they're probably going to re-sign him, so they're going to have two, as you term, box safeties on the team, which is not an ideal fit. I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to do that. But
you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. And then the other thing, you can't miss on the 4th pick in the draft. I'm sorry, but Cleveland Farrell is not 4th pick in the draft good. If they took him in the 4th round, I get it. But that guy, oh, man, like, he got picked around Nick Bosa, who was awesome this year. Quinnen Williams, not as awesome, but pretty good. Devin White looked really good towards the end of the year. Devin Bush turned around the Steelers' defense by himself. There was a lot of good players in this top 10, and they came out of it with Cleveland Farrell, who stinks.
And I on God, when they picked him, I was like, who the fuck are we picking right now? I mean, like, I was like, all right. I'm like, just trust that, man. And Farrell didn't have, he didn't have a statistical year. It wasn't stats for him. It was kind of his presence. You know, he did a lot in containing the edge. But, I mean, for the 4th selection in the NFL draft, no, he did not deserve to be there. I mean, it looked like he could have been maybe 2nd round, 1st round, later 1st round kind of pick. I mean, and that even then that would still have been a little bit questionable. I mean, Mayock was so secretive about this 4th selection. I was like, well, I mean, if he knows what he's doing, but it was a miss.
And again, that's why I gave the Raiders an F for their draft grade. They did okay things in the middle rounds. I like Renfro and Mullen looked all right, but you can't do those kind of things and expect to win 10, 11, 12 football games a year.
Yeah, I agree. It was I can't really say it was a bad pick for that time. It was a bad pick.
All right, let's move on to Derek Carr because you love him. And
yeah, and
I'm gonna kind of ride the fence here a little bit. I don't hate Derek Carr. I think he's fine. I think you can win games with Derek Carr. I don't think he got the proper support, although I do like his offensive line. I don't think that's been talked about enough. I would be okay with riding it out with Derek Carr. But at the end of the day, if you're not first or last guy. And he can't win me a Super Bowl. And I don't hate Derek Carr. I think he's maybe 90% of Matt Stafford, which is not a knock, because I like Matt Stafford. But I don't think he can win a Super Bowl with him.
And this is going to come off biased, but, given our recent, and I say recent, I'm talking about after Rich Gannon, which was, 2004? The Raiders' QBs have been not good. I love Derek Carr because he's been better than everything that we have.
He's stable.
He's stable. He's doing it. But let me ask you this question. Other than the 2016 season, what kind of team has been put around him? I mean, you talk about the offensive line. The offensive line is great. But in terms of defense, Derek Carr's he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to win with no team. He's not Russell Wilson, who's going to win with no team. He's Derek Carr. He's average. I put him at average. As a Derek Carr lover, I put him at average. He's not going to go out and win you games with no team. I mean, who was he throwing to last year? He was throwing to washed-up Jordy Nelson. And then Jared Cook had a lot of reception because, it was Jared Cook. That was pretty much the only receiving option we had. This year, Hunter Renfrow started coming in at the end of the year. Tyrell Williams just wasn't there. He wasn't there. Darren Waller showed up, and Darren Waller was a goddamn beast this year. But, other than that, receiving options, he had nobody. Defense was, they were young, and they were terrible. They were inconsistent. Derek Carr has been overly criticized. He should be criticized, because sometimes I'm like, Derek Carr, what the fuck are you doing? As a Derek Carr fan, 3 points only against the Jets, 9 points against Kansas City, who have been known to have a bad defense. There's some questions. I'm like, what the hell? But there's other times when he has 19 game-winning drives, and you're like, okay, he can go out and he can win when the game is on the line. And so there's a lot of conflict there, especially within the Raider Nation. There's, everyone hates him or you either love him. It's like either or. More people are going towards the middle where they're like, okay, Derek Carr is Derek Carr. He's my quarterback of the team. I don't necessarily love him. I don't necessarily hate him. He's just my quarterback.
So let me ask you this. Oakland's on the clock. They have 2 first-round picks. Let's say they take a quarterback. Doesn't matter who it is. Are you pissed today?
Yes, I am. Because there are so many holes on this team that using a first-round pick on a quarterback that is adequate it's just idiotic. It is. Now, I've been able to come to consensus with a lot of Raiders fans, and, we all argue. We're all toxic to each other. It's a bad place to be. But in the third round, I was like, okay, third round is where you want to draft a QB for us. Okay, third round or later. If we have 2 first-round picks. I don't think we have any second-round picks. 2 first-round picks. Those need to go to either an all-star wide receiver, best wide receiver that we can get, or it needs to go defense, and preferably a linebacker. If it doesn't go to either of that, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want a quarterback. I don't want another offensive lineman. No, it needs to go to one of those 2 guys. If you start out with you got Hunter Renfrow and an all-star rookie wide receiver, I'm happy. And if you go linebacker or another defensive player, it's good. If you go quarterback, it's just like, well, what the fuck are you doing? I understand that people hate Derek Carr, and I understand that you want to start looking another way, which is fine. But you don't waste a first-round pick on a guy that can do it. I mean, you said he's 90% of Matthew Stafford. Are the Detroit Lions going out and are they drafting a QB right now in the first round? No, they're not doing that. No one. Why would you even think about doing that?
I would say it depends on who it is. I like other quarterbacks more than others. To me, it comes down to, can the guy win you a Super Bowl? And I think there's maybe one in the draft that can. And if he's not there, then, yeah, I agree. Boost the rest of the roster. As far as the offseason is concerned, have you come up with a little bit of a plan here? What should the Raiders do? I'm looking at defense as a big hole. I'm looking at receiver. Their offensive line's good. Running game's good. Receiver, just everything on the defense needs to be overhauled, I think.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. We lost Vontaze Burfict with the suspension. He's coming back. He really knows Gunther's defense, and I am almost sure they're bringing him back. And he's going to help a lot of the defense because he knows the defense better than the back of his hand. We also had a lot of injuries in the secondary. I feel like defensive end, depending on how Farrell, progresses this offseason, is going to be the question on if they need to get another defensive end. Defensive tackle, I feel like could be an upgrade. Outside linebackers, if Burfict's the middle linebacker, outside linebackers could definitely use an upgrade because we were having linebackers, I didn't even know who the fuck their name was. If you're talking about, the Eagles offense and you don't know who the fuck their name was, that's how I felt with the Raiders linebackers. I had no idea who the hell was in. And then the secondary could be upgraded. And Mullen was pretty good. He was really progressing at the end of the season. Abrams and Carl Joseph, of course, those are your box safeties right there. That's LaMarcus Joyner, I don't know. That was our big defensive signing. He disappeared.
I hated
I feel
that
like
one.
we could use another. Yeah, we could use another corner. Joyner, I was trying to figure out what the fuck he was doing because a lot of times he would be the one that was part of that busted coverage.
Here's why I hated the LaMarcus Joyner thing, because you got to know what division you're in. It's such a huge part. You're in a division with 6'5" Travis Kelce. You're asking 5'8" LaMarcus Joyner to cover him. Doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You got Hunter Henry in the same division, and I know he's never healthy. But he's what, 6'3", 6'4"? You're asking 5'8" LaMarcus Joyner to cover him. In a different division, maybe it works, but not this one. With so many good, talented tight ends, twice a year you got to cover Travis Kelce, and you got to do a good job. And every year, Kelce torches them, and they never learn their lesson.
And you know what? He did. Kelce torched them. He did. If you watch, I was like, and Kansas City's offense is fucking amazing. Like, props to Andy Reid. I hope he gets a ring. Anybody but the Patriots, in my opinion. But, Travis Kelce, if you watch just the film on that, wide open in the middle, no one around him. I mean, the next guy's 10 yards next to him. I mean, Kelce he torched us every game. I'd rather block Kelce and be like, okay, at least we're trying,
All right, Alex, this was a good little episode. Before I let you go, give me a Super Bowl pick.
Super Bowl pick? I'm going with the Saints.
Okay. I like that one.
And it's too easy to go for the Ravens. Everyone loves Lamar Jackson. I want to go for the Saints. The Saints fucking deserve it. They've been cheated the last 2 years, okay? Not cheated the first year. The first year, bad defense, bad tackle, whatever. Second year, they got fucking cheated, and I feel like they would have beat the Patriots. No, they're winning the Super Bowl this year. I'm going for the Saints. I'm the biggest Saints fan. Go Drew Brees.
I got two in mind, and I can't decide who I'm going to pick. I feel like San Francisco could win it, but I feel like they're just 1 year away, maybe. Right now, I'm actually leaning towards Kansas City.
I agree with you on the 49ers. I think they're too green. I think one more year, and they're sold. I mean, and their inexperience is going to show up in the playoffs. You're gonna see it.
Kansas City to me. They're flying under the radar, and all of a sudden their defense just looks nasty, and the offense is coming together. I don't know. I feel like nobody's talking about the Chiefs, and I think they could easily win it.
That's fair. I mean, because they had that mid-year, they were like, everyone was like, who the fuck are these guys? These guys are not playing well at all. And then if anyone deserves more than, the Saints or anything, I think Andy Reid deserves it.
Amen.
I mean, he needs that. He needs that for his coaching career because guy is one of the best coaches. And you know what? Other than his time management and ill-advised timeouts, hey, he's a great fucking coach. Amazing.
Amen. I love Andy Reid. All right, Alex. So this was fun. Sir. Your podcast should be coming out soon. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that? A little preview for that.
We're starting a basketball podcast. Unfortunately, time has been a little bit busy right now. I'm hoping to get it up by next week. We're going to be talking about basketball, mostly NBA. When it comes around March Madness time, it's going to be a lot of college basketball. I love the brackets. I don't know shit about college basketball either, and it's the best thing ever. But a lot of NBA podcasts do a lot of NBA takeaways, a lot of debate, everything you want, and it's going to be very animated. I'm a very animated person.
Alex will be starting his Chicks Tape show. Can't wait for that. All right, buddy. This was a good one.
All right, sir.
All right, and that'll do it for this episode of That's Some Cheese. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Tell you something. You know what really grinds my gears? You, America. Fuck you, Diane.